that we will be focusing on educational technology. He is a licensed professional teacher who gained over 10 years of classroom teaching and school administration experience in different private institutions before devoting his full attention to e-learning. He is the founder and CEO of Cerebro, an edtech startup incubated at the DOST Tomasino Center of the University of Santo Tomas, which helps solve teachers' workload issues with ready-to-use digital lessons and curriculum-assigned test banks. Under his leadership, Cerebro was able to receive the following recognition: Top 2 DTI's Venture Filipinas Startup Pitch Competition People's Choice Award 2021, Top 8 Arise Plus E Boost Accelerator 2022, Top 12 Ideas Space Acceleration Program of 2020, Top 20 Cubo Rescue Startup versus COVID-19, Top 50 Seed Stars Financial Times SDG Challenge 2021, Top 100 Philippine Startup Week of 2021, nominee ASEAN Startup Awards 2021 Best Newcomer in the Philippines, and grantee of DOST PCI EERD Startup Grant Fund Cycle 3. As a resource person in academics, he is part of the Philippine Army Technical Working Group for the nationwide ROTC program, where he holds the rank of lieutenant as he shares his expertise on curriculum development and instructional design. With this discussion entitled Reducing Teachers' Workload with Educational Technology, let's give our warm welcome to Mr. Justin Itugot.
Thank you, Trishanel, for that very warm introduction. So good afternoon, good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session for this morning, the first session of TeachCon Philippines 2022. I am delighted to see you all today, even virtually. And before I begin my presentation, I would like to acknowledge our participants coming from Cerebro's partner schools, the teachers and school administrators. Thank you for supporting us. And I would also like to welcome our participants from other schools and even the individual teachers who have signed up for this activity to learn and continuously update their knowledge on teaching and education in general. Of course, I would also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of our monitor from the Professional Regulation Commission's CPD Council for Professional Teachers, Dr. Merceditas R. Hapay, the Director for Research, Development, Innovation, and Publications of the Philippine Women's College of Davao. Good morning, ma'am, and thank you for joining us this morning. To introduce myself, again, I'm Justin Itugot, the founder and currently the CEO of Cerebro, and concurrently serving as the president of Caritas Bookstore and Publishing House. Just a brief background for those who are not familiar with us. Cerebro is a digital content provider for schools in the Philippines that provides ready-to-use teaching materials like course presentations, test banks, quizzes, and even printable modules and worksheets, all on a cloud platform that we manage for our partner schools, so teachers like all of you can reduce your workload and save up to 400 hours of preparation time per year. For this particular session, I was tasked to share about how we at Cerebro is helping teachers to reduce their workload with the use of educational technology. And just like the most of you, I am also a teacher by profession. For more than 10 years, I have served both as a classroom teacher and as a school administrator, particularly as a department head in various schools and universities within Cavite province and the National Capital Region. And in most of my assignments, I have been tasked to handle the e-learning implementation of the schools that I have been a part of. And this allowed me to broaden my knowledge and perspective when it comes to educational technology. Now, to set your expectations for this session, I will begin my discussion with a brief overview of the concepts of educational technology and edtech and e-learning, focusing on the similarities and differences between these two, as well as a quick check on the early existence of EdTech and e-learning in the educational setting, and also a classification of various EdTech solutions based on their primary purpose. I will also try to give examples of some commonly used EdTech tools that might be familiar to you already. And we will try to talk about some reactions that teachers would have about the practice and implementation of e-learning in schools, and some possible ways on how we can overcome these barriers. And of course, I would also like to take this opportunity to present the projects that we have been working on at Cerebro, along with our partner institutions, and how we are trying to make a global impact in education, starting here in the Philippines, then expanding further to other countries with similar educational problems as what we are experiencing here in our country. Just last October 19, I was invited to sit as a panel member for the technical working group on educational technology for Digital Pilipinas. It is an initiative of the private sector to support the government and to find opportunities for collaboration in digitizing industries here in the Philippines, with the goal of making our economy more competitive through innovation and making us at par with other developing countries. During our panel discussion, the issue on setbacks about teachers rejecting the use of technology was raised, and it was mentioned there that people usually think that teachers are afraid of using technology because they are not used to it. Well, that was actually partially true. Some teachers are afraid of using technology because they have limited to no experience at all about using devices. But due to the fact that more teachers now are familiar with using devices like mobile phones and computers, many of these teachers are not actually afraid of using technology, but they are hesitant because they think that these technologies will just increase their workload even more. Let me read an excerpt from what I have mentioned during the panel discussion that time. Teachers were initially wary of how technology will increase their teaching workload. There is a need to revisit the processes to provide continuous support to our educators in such a way that technology will help bring out their passion for teaching. Imagine, there are some schools who would ask their teachers to prepare two different sets of teaching materials, one for online and one for offline classes. And teachers are also required to submit hard copies of all the reports that they are doing, even though these reports are already available in digital format, or what we call the soft copy. Some teachers are still required to write the grades of their students in report cards and students' permanent records by hand, even if these grades have been computed using a computer and can easily be printed out. And sadly, some of these setbacks actually come from the government itself, as there are offices that have not fully accepted the concept of digitalization for one simple reason. There is a lack of policy that specifically says that such digital copies or even computer printouts are acceptable forms of documents and reports. And in the absence of a policy, they stick to tradition. So we may ask, why is there no policy? Or why is there a lack of policy? Maybe it's simple. Maybe for the higher ups or those who have been entrusted with the position, they believe that how they did things traditionally during their time is still the best way of doing things, even if technology can make everything easier and can make everyone more efficient. In November of last year, an article was published in an international journal where former Secretary Ramon Lopez of the DTI was quoted as saying that the Philippines can become the next technological leader in Southeast Asia. And as Filipinos adapt to digital technology during the pandemic, that statement was entirely true. During the pandemic, we saw the rise of digital marketplaces, the use of e-wallets, the way of communicating through video conferencing, like what we are doing right now, telecommuting or the ability to work from the comfort of our homes, and even schools shifting to purely online mode of education. But that was during the height of the pandemic. This is not what is happening right now. Instead of technology being widely adopted as we can take advantage of the people's familiarity with it to accelerate progress, there are still setbacks, primarily because of the lack of the improper design of policies. Let's take a look at some examples. Earlier this year, we heard from the news that BPOs, which include foreign companies operating call centers in the Philippines, were being forced to return to full face-to-face operations with the threat of removing their tax privileges instead of encouraging a more practical and convenient way of working, which highly utilizes technology and does not necessarily require face-to-face interaction. And I believe we are more familiar with this second example. The Department of Education initially announced that no school shall be allowed to offer online or blended learning by November 2 of this year. And all schools should transition back to full face-to-face classes by that date, as if blended learning or educational technology did not exist before the pandemic. Well, for the public school sector, that is a very much welcome development, as we know the technological capacity and readiness of these institutions, including the budgetary concerns. But the private schools adversely reacted to this mandate, saying that schools, specifically teachers and students who have the ability to teach and learn online, should be allowed to retain the online mode of learning, while those who are not well equipped may be given the option to attend face-to-face classes. Of course, they recently released a new memo, an amendment to this policy just last week, and now they listen to the call of private schools because the request actually makes sense. While online learning may not be for everyone, there are still students and even teachers who learn and teach the best with the use of technology. Let's take a look at this infographic about the technology and internet adoption in the Philippines. Since the internet is one of the main factors that allows us to maximize technology, we can relate our country's level of technological adoption by looking into the statistics on internet penetration. That is the number or the percentage of people that actually use the internet or even internet-enabled devices. According to this slide, 7 out of 10 Filipinos are using the internet, and among this number, 93% have smartphones, 67% have laptops or desktop computers, 40% have tablet computers, 12% own a gaming console like PlayStation, Nintendo, or Xbox, 9.7% have a smartwatch, and 7.5% use their internet-ready televisions, or what we call now as smart TVs, for streaming services like Netflix, YouTube, and the like. Ironically, even though majority of the Filipinos have access to devices and the internet, the Philippines still ranks 41st among the countries who have made significant contributions to the digital world. Probably you know some of the reasons. Our internet speed is at the 110th rank, and the average download and upload speed is just 20 to 21 Mbps compared to the global average, which is about 65 Mbps. Layo. And of course, in the United States, their average speed is 150 Mbps, where most of these technologies come from. But it is interesting to note that Filipinos spend an average of 9 hours and 45 minutes, or nearly 10 hours of their day, just for browsing the internet every single day. And again, do you know the reason? Well, if you're thinking about using the internet while being stuck in traffic, then you're probably right. As a good news, the government is currently doing its part in utilizing technology even more to improve its services. And I guess this will be a very good opportunity for the government to see the problems for themselves and find ways to consider the proposed improvements. The Department of Information and Communications Technology, or the DICT, has released this e-government framework that they would like to achieve and implement. From this illustration, we can see that the government would like to utilize technology in transacting with other government agencies, which is G2G or government to government, G2E as in government to enterprises, G2B as in government to businesses, and G2C as in government to consumers. And with that, many, if not all aspects of the government will eventually shift to digital. And of course, this should be supported not only by a secure and reliable infrastructure, but also a relevant and timely policy that will institutionalize these improvements, unlike what was experienced by the BPOs and the education sector that were initially forced to move backwards with their technology adoption. So, ladies and gentlemen, here are the tech startups in the Philippines. And maybe you have already heard of the word startup because of the Korean drama, which is now being recreated by GMA7. But for those who are not familiar, a startup is a technology-enabled business that aims to solve a particular problem or a pain point in the society with the goal of making an impact not only locally, but globally. So the word startup here doesn't mean that the company is just starting or it is a smaller version of a big company. No. But a startup is currently on its starting point uh, to solving a bigger problem experienced around the world. However, these startups would not be successful in their mission without the support from regulatory agencies uh, and, of course, the government. In the educational technology sector alone, there are only 20 startups listed here. Of course, Cerebro is included. But no matter how much we desire to solve this problem, we cannot do it by ourselves in the absence of policy that will institutionalize these changes or even local adoptions in private institutions. Outside the Philippines, schools have already adopted technology even before the pandemic in 2020. Prior to the pandemic, prior to COVID-19, 93% of schools globally are already using a learning management system or an LMS. That's 9 out of 10 schools. In the Philippines, most schools have just encountered using an LMS during the pandemic because they were forced to do so, di ba? But globally, 93% were doing it before the pandemic, while 51% or slightly more than half of the world's population are already using video conferencing tools for synchronous distance learning. In terms of content, 33% are already using some sort of digital references, materials such as electronic textbooks or ebooks and other forms of digital resources. And in the Philippines, we wanted to bring down these numbers to zero. But of course, we thank those who spoke boldly about the benefits of technology-assisted education for both students and teachers. So this setback has been prevented from happening, and now schools are again allowed to continue their blended learning modality. Private schools are now allowed to continue utilizing technology, and it's not a total 100% return to face-to-face because of practicality, because of efficiency, and because of convenience. And this is why Digital Pilipinas exists, to serve as a bridge that connects tech startups, regulatory agencies, the government, and even the consumers all together in various industries to make a truly digital Philippines. Now, for the education sector, here are some key issues that have been identified by Digital Pilipinas. Number one, the global ranking of the Philippine education system. So the Philippines ranked last in reading comprehension out of 79 countries, surveyed by the Program for International Student Assessment or PISA. Assessments such as those done by the PISA provide basis for the improvement of educational programs and provide evidence that will aid in policy making, planning, and programming at the division, regional, and even at the national levels, according to the Department of Education. Imagine, for reading comprehension, the Philippines ranked 79th out of 79 countries. For mathematics, we ranked second to the last. For global rankings, we ranked 25th out of 28. And digital infrastructure for online learning. That's number two. The pandemic changed the learning arrangements between schools, teachers, and students. And with the onset of COVID-19, distance learning modes via the internet showed the inadequacy of the country's internet infrastructure, as well as the lack of computer systems in most Filipino households to make their online learning worthwhile. And number three, brain drain due to low salaries for teachers, low budget allotments in education, one of the lowest in ASEAN countries, and the big contrast in the quality of learning between public and private schools contributed to the migration of talent overseas for better opportunities. And the quality of education is also compromised by the low ratio of teachers to students. Actually, this brain drain can be seen in two aspects. First is the number of teachers who are migrating from private schools to public schools. So private schools are losing their top talents because teachers are moving to better opportunities in the public schools. But in the public schools, the salary is not even close or at par with other professionals in the industry or even in other industries. So brain drain here can also be similar to what we hear now as the concept of quiet quitting, wherein teachers are now doing the bare minimum because it doesn't compensate. Their salary cannot compensate for the efforts that they are doing. So they're just doing the bare minimum and they're not doing the extra mile. And there is now a lack of what we call before the passion for teaching. So it's there are two aspects about that. And we also have here job mismatch for graduates. According to the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or the PIDS, there is a job mismatch as 40% of Filipinos are found to be overqualified in their jobs in 2022. Why are they overqualified? Because here in the Philippines, an entry-level job would require at least a college degree. Why? Because the basic skills that is required or that are required for the industries are usually taught in college. They are mapped in higher education, but they are usually being forgotten in the basic education level. What we teach in technology and livelihood education in the elementary or secondary levels, we teach them cookery, diba? We teach them basic carpentry. But we lack certain skills, particularly digital business skills that will allow them to enter the corporate world, to work in offices even without the need to undergo college education. Because all these things are being taught in college, but they are not taught in basic education. So the tendency is they become overqualified for their role. And the second thing that could happen is that they have skills that do not match the requirements for a particular role. And number 5, making education inclusive for all. ASEAN, or the Association for Southeast Asian Nations, recognizes the transformative role of education in the region, such that inclusive and quality education is the key to sustainable development in the region. Here in the Philippines, we have the no student is left behind policy, but how do we implement it? Is there a proper implementation? Are we interpreting it correctly? Or maybe there are some teachers who are misinterpreting no student left behind, that they need to pass all students in order for everyone to be at the same level without anyone being left behind. Well, that could be a misinterpretation. And with the pain points being said, we can try to look into the following questions. How can we make the country more competitive, especially in the Asia-Pacific region, where close integration of where close integration is being prioritized at the intergovernmental level? How can we promote lifelong learning underpinned by the principles of equity, inclusion, and quality? How can we make education future ready? How can we empower our educators and education personnel at all levels, basic and higher education alike, and even technical and vocational education and training instructors. How can the business sector and the academe work together to address skills and job mismatch in the country? And we believe that solving all these problems in the education sector does not need to start from the students who are merely the recipients and beneficiaries of education. Rather, we should start from the teacher. How do we empower our educators so they can deliver a better quality of education? How do we allow our teachers to be more efficient in their quest for quality education? How do we promote their job satisfaction and personal and social well-being so they will be more willing to face the challenges that are ahead of them? And as complex as these questions may seem, our proposed answer to all of these questions can be summarized in two simple words: educational technology. And I would like to discuss that EdTech and e-learning are two different concepts, even though we are often using these two terms interchangeably. EdTech mostly refers to the use of technology to support the teaching and learning process, while e-learning, on the other hand, refers to the actual delivery of education through electronic means. And with this being said, we can say that we use EdTech to facilitate e-learning. EdTech is the tool, the hardware, and the software, while e-learning is the process of delivering education through these technologies. While most people would think that e-learning is something modern, it is not actually a new concept, since e-learning is just a shortened way of saying electronic learning. E-learning may refer to any practice of the teaching and learning process that involves the use of electronic devices or equipment. Actually, e-learning already exists even before personal computers were invented. So it does not only refer to education delivered through the use of computers. And we can also remember that during the time that our parents or even some of our grandparents were still studying in school, there were already they were already exposed to electronic learning, which they have been already considering as modern as early as that time. Learning through the use of radio, television, or any form of recorded media such as discs, etc., would qualify as a form of e-learning. Hence, the developments we are seeing now are merely innovations that sprung from the evolution of technology, which also contributed to the development of e-learning. Now, let's talk about the classifications of educational technology solutions that we have nowadays based on their primary purpose. Some of you might have already heard about these things, but may not be too familiar about their differences. For example, school management systems would refer to the software that are being used to manage the school's operations, such as those that are used for admissions and enrollment, assessment and payment, and even for grading and the generation of reports. On the other hand, a learning management system refers to the software being used to facilitate the actual teaching and learning process. So it is the tool that allows teachers to upload files, set assignments, create quizzes, and the like. And lastly, a courseware is a package that serves as a collection of digital educational materials and contents that teachers and students may use either to support classroom instruction or even to facilitate a fully online learning process. Here are some of the commonly used edtech tools that are being used here in the Philippines and even in other countries. Of course, I have only selected a few that might already be familiar to you, so we can classify them easily. In this slide, I have grouped the edtech tools which serve as a school management system, like Wella, CampusLink, School Automate, and EduSuite. Learning management systems like Neo, Google Classroom, Moodle, Blackboard, and Canvas. And some courseware like Coursera, Udemy, Khan Academy, and Discovery Education. Maybe you have already used some of this not only in your school, but even for your personal growth and development. Especially Coursera and Udemy which allows you to enroll online for a short course and receive your certificate afterwards. However, despite the abundance of edtech tools here in the Philippines and even abroad, there are still some adverse reactions that we are getting from teachers, students, and even parents about e-learning. First, of course, there is the resistance to change, which is a factor that prevents the full implementation of e-learning in our schools and even in other educational institutions. Teachers tend to teach the way they were taught, and if they were not taught using e-learning, they will tend to teach without e-learning. Another reaction is that teachers have a very low level of self-confidence in using technological tools. They're afraid of technology as if it will break if they were not able to use it properly. Teachers who have little or no confidence at all in using devices such as computers, tablets, and the like will even try to avoid technology or even getting near these devices at all. And lastly, the issue on connectivity still lingers, which many would say as something that we cannot fully control. Hence, in order to effectively implement e-learning, these barriers would have to be addressed first before we proceed. Let us identify which factors do we need to consider before we can effectively implement educational technology. In terms of the teaching and learning process, do we have problems regarding workload? How heavy are the teachers' workload right now? I remember when I was a grade 1 student, my teacher for mathematics is also my teacher for science, English, Araling Panlipunan, even for TLE, even for EPP. And I know most of you can relate. I remember my first year of teaching, my specialization, my major is values education, but my principal asked me to teach cooking in TLE. So I don't know anything about cooking. How can I facilitate the class? So I have to add to my workload. I have to do additional research. I have to spend more time in familiarizing myself with these things. And these are on top of the regular teaching load that I already have. For training, are the teachers properly trained? For support, are the teachers continuously guided? Is it just a one-time support? Is it just a one-time training that we give at the start of the school year? Or is it a continuous support that we are guiding teachers all the way throughout the school year, even on their day-to-day teaching activities, whether online or offline? For communication, is there a facility to effectively communicate with students, other teachers, and even parents? For efficiency, is the process making things simpler, easier, and shorter? And for monitoring, is everything properly monitored for quality assurance? Or are teachers allowed to use different platforms as they please, that the school has no control for monitoring purposes? And more importantly, is there a solution that will potentially address all these pain points altogether? And recently, we have entered into a partnership with the Department of Science and Technology, or the DOST, particularly through the Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technology Research and Development, or DOST-PSURD, in creating an integrated school management and content library system for schools, unifying the three categories we have discussed earlier into one single system. So this is like a school management system, a learning management system, and a courseware in just one platform. And the DOST has given Cerebro a grant amounting to 3 million pesos for this project. And please allow me to share more about how we are building Cerebro to be an educational technology solution for reducing teachers' workload, for minimizing the time that teachers are spending for their administrative tasks, and for minimizing also the time that they are spending for preparing instructional materials or visual aids. So, what is the pain point that we are trying to solve here? Let's look at this user story. This is teacher Anna. a grade school faculty member in a medium-sized private school handling 8 online classes with 50 students each. However, these classes are not of the same subject since teachers in the elementary level are usually expected to teach students in several learning areas, which could also be different from their field of specialization. And because of this, Anna needs to do an extensive research about the subjects assigned to her so she could prepare her instructional materials well, while also allocating time for other administrative duties such as computing grades, preparing reports, and the like. And based on existing data, this comes from the Department of Education itself. A teacher spends at least 2 hours per day for these tasks, which sums up to around 400 hours of preparation time for the entire school year. And this is beyond the regular school hours. If a teacher is teaching until 5 p.m., these 2 hours per day starts once the teacher returns to his or her home, or after class hours that the teacher is rendering overtime in the faculty room. And this problem also becomes a pain point for school administrators after seeing a great number of teachers who are quitting from their jobs because of stress each year. And studies also note that such heavy workload of teachers has a significant effect on the quality of education, yielding low scores in standardized exams like the National Achievement Test and even the National Career Assessment Examination, or the NCAE. And this is not just a problem in the Philippines. This is the same situation the teachers from around the world are experiencing right now. And for this reason, we created Cerebro, a collection of ready-to-use lessons, curriculum-based quizzes, and printable worksheets that teachers can use to effectively reduce their workload by up to 400 hours per year and improve the quality of teaching. And unlike other e-learning products that focus on the platform alone, we took it a step further by providing the ready-made teaching and learning materials, which we have carefully designed to align with the standard curriculum, allowing us to gain traction locally. And earlier this year, we were able to launch our Learning Tools Interoperability, or LTI, which allowed us to integrate Cerebro's contents in other LMS platforms so we can reduce the learning curve of teachers when adopting our solution. And right now, we have covered 94% of the entire Philippine K-12 curriculum with nearly 3,000 e-learning contents which are already being used by our current partner schools. But as we aim for global expansion, we aim to create additional contents based on the international curriculum, particularly on mathematics, reading, and language arts. So teachers from other countries who have the same experience with Teacher Anna will be able to reduce their workload and manage their time better. There are nearly 94 million teachers in the world, and among this number, 32 million are in countries where English is the primary medium of instruction, who could benefit from solutions like that of Cerebro. And with our current contents alone, we can already help up to 1.2 million teachers in the Philippines. And we would like to share this innovative way of teaching to those outside the country to achieve a wider impact. And to this date, we have more than 20 schools who have adopted Cerebro's content library, bringing in a total revenue of 310,000 US dollars for the past 2 years. And 75% of our team is composed of licensed professional teachers. And unlike other players, our expertise is on instructional design and not just on technology. And as we expand our market, we are aiming for a content licensing and franchising agreement with LMS providers. And this way, we can maximize and benefit from the market leadership and familiarization of foreign and even local edtech companies, while we also allow them to increase their competitive advantage by adding our educational contents on top of their existing platforms so we can effectively reduce teachers' workload. And we have already tested the compatibility of our contents with various open source products like Moodle and Canvas, and even with commercial ones like Neo and Schoology. And we are working to expand the list of compatible systems by the end of this year. So we can support more teachers and schools in reducing faculty workload, regardless of what LMS platform they are using. So now I would like to give a quick walkthrough of Cerebro, particularly what we have accomplished so far. So this can be a sort of a best practice then, adapting solutions like what Cerebro has, or even creating something like this for your school, but maybe that will take you a longer time to achieve the goal. But yes, of course, definitely you can do that. So this is an example of one of the learning management platforms where Cerebro's contents have been integrated. So this one is for one of our partner schools, San Sebastian College, Recoletos, Manila. So here, we provide the management of the platform, everything, all the technicalities, even the uploading of contents, so teachers can just focus on the actual teaching. And since teachers will be able to reduce preparation time for these materials, they will be able to spend more time on providing quality intervention programs and providing quality feedback to their students. So the result is that they have the curriculum aligned materials from Cerebro. They have more time for feedback and learning interventions. Then the end result, the goal is to have an increased performance or a better score in the national achievement tests, the national career assessment examinations, uh, achieve more work-life balance for the teacher, because there is no need, or actually we minimize the need for them to prepare teaching materials. And of course, we were able to reduce their workload. So this is an example of the login page. So once they have logged in, they will be redirected to our dashboard. You will also notice here that there is no option to create an account, because the system is secured, and only those who have been officially enrolled and authorized by the school will have access to the platform. So once they log in, they will see this dashboard containing some quick access icons to certain pages and services that Cerebro is offering the school. We have here the button that says Getting Started, which will lead them to our online help desk and knowledge base. And in this help desk and knowledge base, the teachers and even the students can see instructions on how to do things in the platform. Of course, we conduct a training before the start of the school year, even refresher trainings in the middle of the school year. But in any case that our users would forget something that they need to do in the platform, for example, they forgot how to access class materials or how to submit a quiz, they can just go to our knowledge base and see the articles here, complete with step-by-step instructions, screenshots, and even instructional videos that will demonstrate how to do these things in our platform. And if they don't find a relevant article with the concern that they have, they can go to our help desk and submit a ticket to our team, so we can assist them with whatever technical difficulty or concern that they might have. And a member of our team will be assisting them until they resolve the issue. And here we can also see some quick access icons to different levels. So here we can browse the contents for these levels. For example, let's take a look at our ready made course materials for senior high school. This one is for philosophy, the introduction to the philosophy of the human person. So you'll see that we have uploaded everything. We have structured the course page in this format. There is the level identifier, senior high school. There is the course title, Introduction to the Philosophy of the Human Person. And we have here the course description that we have directly lifted from DepEd's curriculum guide. There is a button here to post an announcement. And if the students have updated their email address in the platform, they will receive email notifications of all the announcements that the teachers are posting in their announcement pages. Here, We can also see PDF copies of DepEd's K-12 curriculum guide, both the original K-12 program and for the MELCs, or the most essential learning competencies, which drastically reduce the number of competencies to only those that are essential and are applicable to online learning. So I know you're familiar with that. And let's take a look at some of the course presentations that we have here. For example, for topic number 1 on doing philosophy. So you can see that the page loaded directly on the screen. There was no need for the students to download the PowerPoint presentation because we are already using the SCORM format, which is the Shareable Content Object Reference Model, the global standard for e-learning, which makes educational materials more accessible to students regardless of what device they are using. Even if they don't have PowerPoint installed on their cell phones or even their tablets, they can load their presentations as long as they have a regular or standard browser. So if they can load any web page, they can load the course materials from Cerebro. And if we're going to take a look at the competencies here for this particular topic on doing philosophy, we can see competency number 1 says, distinguish a holistic perspective from a partial point of view. If we are going to view the curriculum guide for this particular subject, which we have already prepared also in this platform, no? You can see that competency number 1 for doing philosophy, topic number 1, is exactly the same. Distinguish a holistic perspective from a partial point of view. So it's aligned. And if we're going to browse the slides, we can see that the topics being discussed here are about holistic thinking and partial thinking, which are exactly the same things that DepEd would like us to teach to our students: holistic perspective and partial point of view. Now, aside from the presentations, we also have the formative assessments here to help the teachers in measuring the students' level of understanding of the topics being discussed. So here we can see that there is also a quiz 1 for doing philosophy, and it's already in multiple choice format. So the system can automatically check the answers of the students and automatically post the scores of the students in our virtual gradebook, which the students can later on download in Excel format. Maybe they would like to transfer it to their school's own spreadsheet or format for class records. But the assessments are already here. The quizzes are already here. The questions are here. And these questions are customizable. These are in our virtual test bank. So teachers can mix and match questions coming from different topics. For example, there are 10 topics with 10 quiz items each. So the teacher can just put the questions all together, and they will have now a 100-item examination, which they can use for their major examination. So less time on preparing presentations, less time on preparing quizzes, formative assessments, and even summative examinations because of technology. So now we are able to somehow reduce the workload of teachers and focus on the more important aspects of teaching, which is providing feedback and providing learning intervention programs. Next, another example that we have is this one. This is for English for junior high school, grade 7. Let's take a look at the first topic. The first topic here is word analogy, lesson 1. So we can see here that there is only one competency because this particular lesson follows the MELCs, or the most essential learning competencies. Again, the MELCs drastically reduce the number of competencies to only those that are essential and are applicable for online learning. And we are also following the guidelines of DepEd when it comes to reducing the screen time of our students. So most of our slides would have an average of 15 slides only. So these are not meant to replace the role of the teacher in the class, but these are meant to support the teaching and learning process so teachers can reduce their workload through the use of digital materials. So this will just serve as the starting point. These are not supposed to be used independently. And if we're going to look at our slides, you can see that we are using graphic organizers like arrows, boxes, and different colors to make the materials more engaging to our students. So this will catch their attention, and we are using graphic organizers to allow them to focus on the most essential element on the screen. And since for this particular slide, we are talking about examples of word analogies, we have an arrow pointing specifically to the examples of word analogies on the screen. And if you're going to browse further down the page, so we have already sorted or categorized the materials that, based on the grading period that these materials should be offered by the teacher. And at the bottom, we have here a learning companion, which is a printable, downloadable PDF ebook that is exactly aligned to what we have in the online platform. So this is a very good alternative for students who are having connectivity issues, because they can still follow the discussions if they have the downloaded copies of these learning companions. And this is formatted similar to a textbook format. You don't need to subscribe to a publishing house or to a separate publishing house, or to purchase physical copies of textbooks, because these materials are exactly aligned with what we have in our platform, and students can download and print this on demand if they need it. Now, if they don't need the printed copies and they will be using the internet and their devices all along, then they don't need to print it. They can just store the digital copies in their devices or even retain it in the LMS. Another example, this one is for grade school naman, for science grade 3. Here we can see, let's take a look at second grading naman. Lesson number 2, living things, animals, and their habitat. So here you can see that we are using a different font style and the font color, because of course students in the elementary level have a different attention span, and we need to engage them even more. So here we are using larger photos, so our students will be able to uh, really understand what we are trying to teach them through the use of illustrations. And we also have quizzes. Again, the quizzes are automatically posting the results uh, on the gradebook. So most of our quizzes are in multiple choice and true or false formats, because these are the types of tests that can be automatically checked by the platform. So I strongly suggest that when you create your quizzes too, you create it in multiple choice or true or false formats. Why? Because these are also the same types of examinations that are being used for board examinations and standardized exams. So we need to prepare our students for taking these types of examinations. And of course, we can integrate higher order thinking skills when creating multiple choice and true or false types of questions. It can be a complex question. It can be a question that would require intellectual skills and not just a simple changing of one word to make the statement false. So we also have a printable module for science grade 3. Actually, for most of the subjects that we have here, we have an equivalent printable module from kinder to senior high school. And for senior high school, we have covered the core subjects, the applied subjects, and even the specialized subjects, particularly for the academic track, namely STEM, ABM, UMS, and even the general academic strand or GAS, which just basically uses topics coming from the different strands of the academic track. Okay. And if you go back to our dashboard, you'll see that we have a button here that says simulations. Now, for simulations, we have licensed from our partners more than 80 interactive simulations that will give our students a fun and engaging experience. So here, for example, this one is an example of fractions in the form of a game. So let's take a look at this. For example, let's choose level 1. The system is asking us for the illustration of a 1/3 fraction. So if we are able to answer this correctly, the system will accept the answer and there is a corresponding sound indicator for that. And if we are unable to answer this correctly, for example, our answer is wrong, the system will not accept the answer and they will have to supply the correct answer. Let's try to see what will happen if we finish everything correctly. So the student will be asked to move to the next level with, of course, a higher level of complexity or difficulty. Another example that we have here, this one is for balancing act. So this is a very good example in discussing physics to our students. So for example, we have 2 units of fire extinguishers weighing 5 kilograms each on one side of the platform and 1 trash can weighing 10 kilograms on the other side. So once we enable the platform, we will see that the platform is imbalanced. And we can enable the different labels that we have here so we can see what could have been the reason for the imbalance. So once we move this, maybe we'll see it's the distance between the left and the right weights that is contributing to the imbalance of the platform. Okay, and lastly, we have here this example for circuit construction. This is actually one of the most dangerous activities that we have been asking our students to do inside the classroom or even in their laboratories, diba? This is one of the experiments that we are asking our students to do in science. They are connecting wires, switches, batteries, and a light bulb to see that if they understood how to connect everything correctly, then the light bulb is supposed to light like that. But what if they mess up? What if they don't understand everything correctly? If they mix positive to positive or negative to negative, then of course we expect hazards because of short circuit. And that hazard here, like the fire that you see, is just virtual. Our students are safe, their homes are safe. So everything is done virtually and we are protecting our students. But they still understood the concept that we are trying to teach them. If you would like to teach them how to use a voltage tester, we have a virtual voltage tester here that you can use. Just put the pins on the proper places and the voltage meter will show 9 volts because that's the voltage of the circuit that we have here based on the battery that we are using. And we also have some bonus materials here for kindergarten. So for kindergarten, we are following DepEd's treatment of having one set of standards and competencies for 5-year-old Filipino children. And we have bonus worksheets here, like this tracing letters worksheet. So you would not be hesitant to adopt technology because you might be thinking that it will affect students' penmanship skills, because we have also provided you with some materials that you may use for the students to download so they can practice their penmanship skills, like these bonus worksheets and even the printable modules that we have. And if you go back to our dashboard, you will also see that there is a button here that says DepEd TV. This will lead you to the official YouTube channel of DepEd, where you can search for videos that you may integrate in your lessons. And once you integrate them to your lessons, actually that's part of our training that we're offering to schools, how to make these videos more interactive for your students. So yeah, we train the teachers from our partner schools on how to integrate these videos and make them more engaging, that the students will have to answer certain parts of the video in order to check their understanding of what they have watched. So yeah, I guess that would be all for my presentation. So if you would like to reach out to me after this session, feel free to do so. My email address and my contact number are posted on the screen, and I hope we're able to share through this session some best practices about how teachers can reduce their workload through the use of technology, and what types of policies we can introduce in our respective schools or even in our local communities to promote and better implement educational technology in our educational institutions. So thank you very much, and I hope that learning will still continue even after this TeachCon conference. Thank you very much, Tricianel.